as we are live from the main gym at Pioneer High School. The bus is running a little bit late, so we're going to get going just a little bit later. So the game probably earliest the bus will arrive, we're thinking is 5:30. Probably looking at pushing back game time 10 to 15 minutes. So enjoy some music, and we will keep you apprised. We're just waiting for Lincoln to show up, and then we'll get going. But you are watching Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Pioneer main gym here on the campus of Pioneer High School. Let me pause that. Where it is Pioneer women's varsity basketball taking on Ypsilanti Lincoln. Ypsilanti Lincoln, their bus is running just a little bit late. So Pioneer is getting warmed up now. And we'll go over a little bit about the teams here before I'm pretty sure as once Lincoln gets here, they'll probably get warmed up and we'll get going as quickly as possible. We assume the bus to arrive sometime soon now. So we just have one game this evening, so that's all right. Everything will get going in the near future. But let's talk a little bit about these teams. And first, I guess, let me do this. Ladies and gentlemen, Pioneer women's varsity basketball is live and on the air. So let's take a look at the two teams. Pioneer is 2-1 on the season. They started off with a win at Skyline, that on the 17th. That was a 78-29 win. Then they really poured it on at Monroe. Everything was clicking. Everything was going just right, and their defense was absolutely stifling. That was a 61-16 win. Then their last game, this past Tuesday, over at Saline. Saline, a very, very good team, was able to flip the script a little bit on Pioneer, and they won that one 58-34. So Pioneer 2-1 on the season, looking to try and step right back into the winning ways versus Lincoln. The Rail Splitters are 2-3 on the season, so they've played 2 more games. They started off, they beat Skyline back on the 5th of February. That was a 44-33 win by the Rail Splitters. Then they played tomorrow's opponent for Pioneer, Temperance Bedford. They lost that one 55-30. Lincoln did, the Temperance. They lost to Saline 67-27. Again, Saline just a very, very good team this year. And then Ypsilanti, Lincoln lost to Ypsilanti Community 36-25. Their last game was a rematch against Skyline. They won that one as well, boy, it has the same score as the one from the 5th. 44-33. So that doesn't seem right. But according to what I have over on the schedule on Max Preps, they are 2-3. So those 2 wins would be against Skyline. It just doesn't seem like they would have the exact same score. But what do I know? Maybe maybe things went just that way, and that happens. See if I can get a box score or anything from that last game. Typically, I haven't had a lot of luck with that. Yeah, nothing listed big time in that box score. Let's take a look at the SEC standings, though, for the varsity ladies basketball over in the red division. Saline is in the lead. As I said, they are really humming this season, 5-0. To start with, they have a player who's on the watch list for Basketball Player of the Year. Bedford is 3-1. That's going to be Pioneer's opponent tomorrow here at the Pioneer main gym. We will have that game for you. Pioneer 2-1, so they're sitting right at third. Monroe is 3-2. Ypsilanti is 1-2. Lincoln is 1-3. Huron is 0-2, and Skyline is 0-3 over on the red division. Take a look over at the white division. It is Chelsea tops over on that side of it, with them being 3-0. Dexter, as well as Tecumseh and Jackson, all checking in at 2-1. So all 3 of those knotted up in that second place in the white division of the SEC. Both Pinckney and Adrian are 0-3 at this point in time in the SEC. So compressed season, lots going on. We haven't seen the rail splitters step into the gym yet, so we'll step away. We'll play a little bit more music, and we'll get going as soon as possible. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting. And thank you for supporting the team and cheering from wherever you are at. We are so grateful for you supporting the team. We will be back in just a few moments here. So we just want to let everyone know that we are at the main gym of Pioneer waiting as there was a little delay in the opposing team getting here. The Lincoln Rail Splitters were Pioneer team is gathered around, staying loose, staying warmed up. Hopefully we will see the Rail Splitters fairly soon. So hopefully everything is going well with them and they arrive safely, and we'll get going as soon as that happens. So again, 2-1 Pioneer women's varsity basketball team, 2-3 for the Rail Splitters. Pioneer, their last game was a loss versus Saline. Pioneer looking to try and hop right back on it, get the winning ways as they won the first 2 games. Rail Splitters trying to tie 2 wins in a row and try and get a little streak going and make something happen. So we are in a bit of a holding pattern, but that's kind of the way things have gone recently, right? This past year has taught us nothing if not to be flexible and to do our best to just take things as they come. So it does mean that I probably won't have a chance to verify the pronunciations of the Rail Splitters really quickly with the coaching staff. So if you're a parent or a grandparent of Laura Mupin, and I'm massacring the wonderful young lady's last name, please let me know, and I will try and do my best to not massacre it. Otherwise, I think I have my pronunciation down. But I think things are going to move fairly quickly, would be my assumption. And we all know what assumptions make me look like, but that would be my assumption once Lincoln gets here. So we're hoping they have a safe journey, get here, and we can have a fantastic, wonderful basketball game. This was a game that was going to be the first game of the season, and then snow happened, and it got awful snowy. I know it's 39 degrees out there right now, so there are moments where it feels like spring, but I know it's February in Michigan. We are gonna get continue to get colder, and I know Mother Nature is not done with us yet. So I can't get too used to this lovely weather, but it is absolutely 100% gorgeous out there, and it's wonderful inside the Pioneer Gym, as we are looking forward to a fantastic game between 2 wonderful sets of athletes. So we're just in a holding pattern, playing some music. I'll play a few messages from the MHSAA, and then we'll get back to a little bit of music, and then as soon as Lincoln comes in, we'll have a little warm-up and get going with the game. So thank you for staying in a holding pattern with us. Thank you so much for your support of these wonderful, amazing athletes. And we are hoping that we'll be able to get going in the not-too-distant future. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting.
Where can you find good information on all kinds of topics related to the well-being of our student athletes? Check out the health and safety page of the MHSAA website. Learn about multi-sport participation, heat and hydration, cardiovascular resources, as well as insurance benefits available for our students. It's all on the health and safety page of MHSAA.com. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
You're hearing it. The message is getting through to parents. Multi-sport athletes get injured less. Multi-sport athletes become better in their primary sport in the long run. And even though it's not why we play our games, multi-sport athletes are now getting recruited more than specialized athletes. Multi-sport participation is cross-training for life. Learn more at the MHSAA website. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. Health concerns in high school sports go beyond physical injuries. The mental well-being of our young people is a hotter topic than ever before. The Michigan High School Athletic Association website has resources to help adults and students recognize potential problems and deal with them in a positive way. You can learn more about these mental health resources on the Health and Safety page of the MHSAA website. A message from the MHSAA promoting the value and values of educational athletics. Integrity, commitment, love of the game. These traits describe the people high school sporting events can't start without. The officials. They're out there every day giving back to our kids. Let's give them the respect they deserve. Better yet, why don't you become one? Visit the MHSAA website for more information. There's help wanted. Just whistle. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
As Lincoln just walked into the building, we are excited to see the rail splitters as they're getting ready and gathered over on the bench to our left. So they'll obviously probably need to get warmed up and get ready to go. And as soon as all of that happens, we will have the game for you. So thank you for your patience. And with all the things causing delays and everything, it's actually kind of refreshing to have something so mundane as just a bus running late. So we're happy to have this game happening very shortly. We'll play a little bit of music so you don't have to listen to me yammer, but we'll get going in just a moment. You're listening to or watching Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Pioneer Main Gym here on the campus of Ann Arbor Pioneer High School. And we are counting down as they gave the teams 15 minutes to warm up as soon as both teams got here and were ready. So Lincoln is up in their warm-ups, getting ready, getting warmed up. Don't want anyone to hurt themselves. Want everyone to be get a chance to get warmed up, have the best game we can. So we are counting down, 5 minutes to go now, and we will have our opening tip between Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball and the Lincoln Rail Splitters. Again, Pioneer 2-1 on the season, coming off of a tough game at Saline. Pioneer wants to rebound, try and get things heading right back on the right track after having 2 games where they had their way in the first 2 games of the season. Lincoln bookended their 3 losses, a win at first and then a win afterwards. So they're looking to try and string a couple wins together, make something happen. Both teams would love to make a run in the SEC. Again, taking a look at those SEC standings. Saline up at the top at 5-0. They are very, very difficult to play against this season. Bedford, who Pioneer is going to see tomorrow, is 3-1. So depending on what Pioneer does here today, they might be able to pull ahead of Bedford or not, depending on the results. Monroe right behind Pioneer at 3-2. Ypsilanti Community at 1-2, and Lincoln at 1-3. So Lincoln wanting to make a little bit of a move there. Again, the Max Prep one I saw said 2-3, but it had Skyline listed twice with the same score. So I'm going to take that as 1-3. We'll take the SEC site as a more solid, reliable source. And then Huron is 0-2 and Skyline is 0-3. So both teams want to try and make a run up the standings, at least trying to see what they can do to get to second in the red division, and then anything can happen. It's a shortened season. So we will have about 3 more minutes. We'll play just a little bit more music so you don't have to listen to me yammer here, and we will get going shortly. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting.
Here are 5 good reasons for high school multi-sport participation. Fewer overuse injuries, less opportunity for emotional burnout, exposure to different kids and coaches, exposure to different roles, and learning to compete better. Being a multi-sport participant can help a kid become a more well-rounded person. Multi-sport participation is cross-training for life. Learn more at the MHSAA website. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
If you're a recent high school or college graduate and still have a passion for the games you played in school, still remember the thrill of putting on the uniform, why don't you help us out and become a registered high school game official? Get out there and give something back to our kids. Visit the MHSA website for more information. There's help wanted, just whistle. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
As both teams are gathered around their benches getting last-moment instructions from the coaching staffs, we are getting ready to go. So I'm not sure if we're going to have a starting lapse of the national anthem, or are we just going to hop right back into things as the clock counting down. And things just a little delayed today, but that's all right. Gives more folks a chance to get off of work and watch this game and appreciate these two teams playing together. As there's the whistle. As we're going to hop right into things, as Hubler will inbound right in front of us for Lincoln. As we're getting ready to go, ready to hop right into things. Hubler inbounds to French. French over center court. French being watched by DeWolf. French dribbles to her left. Ball tapped away, but gets it back. DeWolf steals it away. DeWolf for Pioneer into the paint. Puts it up and puts it in. DeWolf starts off the scoring, 2-0. Pioneer in the lead, 7:40 left to go. French for Lincoln, bringing it up court. DeWolf putting pressure on French, and nice job by Clark to knock it away. That'll be out of bounds to Lincoln. Hubler will inbound for the Rail Splitters. Hubler looking for a place to go, puts it up. Hicks got a hand on it, but French collects it right at the arc, but traveling called. That will be a turnover and go over Pioneer's way as Stewart inbounds it. Here comes DeWolf for Pioneer. Gets it over to Hicks. Underneath to Clark. Clark puts it up and puts it in. Pioneer has the 4-0 lead. 7:20 left to go as Lincoln brings it up. Brianna Clark has it. Gets it back over. Brianna Clark trying to get it in from Teresa Clark. That's stolen away by Stewart. Up ahead to Brines. Brines puts it off the glass. That just a little to the left as Teresa Clark rebounds it. Bounce pass over on the far side to Hubler. Hubler gets ahead to Brianna Clark for Lincoln. Brianna Clark trying to get into the paint. Comes down the baseline. That off the underneath of the glass. Battle for it underneath. Trying to pull that out. Brines goes down to the court trying to get that. That's going to be Lincoln's ball. 6:51 left to go here in the first. 4-0 lead for Pioneer. Lincoln will inbound baseline right underneath their own basket. Hubler to inbound. Clark keeping her back to her, but trying to keep an eye on the other players. That inbounded to French. French along the rim gets it underneath to Teresa Clark. Whistle underneath. That will be a foul. I didn't see who they called it on, but that is the first foul for Pioneer. Again, Hubler to inbound underneath their own basket. Hubler gets it inbounded to French. And that goes the other direction. Pioneer basketball. As Hicks will inbound for Pioneer right underneath the baseline to the right. Here comes DeWolf. DeWolf comes down the far sideline. DeWolf on the far wing. DeWolf bounce pass to Hicks in the far corner. Hicks coming down the baseline. Hicks bounce passes it over to Brines. Brines trying to get over to Stewart. Stewart skies it over for Clark. Out in the corner for Hicks. Clark gets it back just on the edge. Now there's DeWolf with the floater who puts it up and in. Pioneer 6, Lincoln nothing. 6:17 left to go here in the first quarter. French bringing it up for Lincoln as she goes over center court. French cuts onto the near wing, being watched by Clark. French bounce passes it into Teresa Clark. Clark trying to put it up. That bounces around and in as Teresa Clark gets Lincoln on the board. So it's Pioneer 6 and Lincoln 2. DeWolf has it. DeWolf gets it over to Hicks. Hicks over to Stewart. Stewart gets over to Brines in the near corner. Brines with a long two-pointer. She hits it. Jacqueline Brines makes it, that's stolen away by Alexis Clark. Gets it over to Stewart. Stewart, top of the key. Stewart gets it over to Hicks. Hicks with a long two-pointer. That just off to the left-hand side. Throwing it back in was Alexis Clark, and that went off of Teresa Clark. That'll maintain Pioneer possession. 5:27 left to go here in the first. 8-2, the lead for Pioneer. DeWolf skies it for Alexis Clark in the paint. Alexis Clark gets it, trying to get it over to DeWolf, just a little strong for the pass. She can't haul it in. That'll go over to Lincoln. Pioneer 8, the Rail Splitters 2. 5:24 left to go here in this, the first. As timeout called, we'll take it with them and play a message from the MHSAA. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball.
Where can you find good information on all kinds of topics related to the well-being of our student athletes? Check out the health and safety page of the MHSAA website. Learn about multi-sport participation, heat and hydration, cardiovascular resources, as well as insurance benefits available for our students. It's all on the health and safety page of MHSAA.com. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
As we're in the first, 5 minutes, 24 seconds left to go here in the first quarter. Pioneer has the 8-2 lead. As Hubler will inbound on the sideline, on the near side, gets it into French. French brings it up for Lincoln. Brines providing full court pressure. That over to Hubler. Hubler quickly gets it across the way. That just out of the reach of Teresa Clark, and that'll go over to Pioneer. Hicks will inbound right in front of the scorer's bench. As Hicks gets it to DeWolf. DeWolf brings it down the far sideline over center court. DeWolf on the far wing. DeWolf being watched by Maxson. Now DeWolf racks her way around the arc, gets it over to Alexis Clark. Alexis Clark over to Brines. Brines just to the near side of the top of the key. Gets it to Alexis Clark on the near wing. She tries to work her way into the paint. Back over to Hicks. Hicks over to Brines. Brines comes down the baseline. Gets it back to Alexis Clark. Alexis Clark trying to get it over to Hicks. That tipped away. Here comes the Rail Splitters, as bringing it ahead is Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark stops, pivots, gets it over to Teresa Clark on the far wing. She bounce passes it, tries to get it into Brianna Clark. That's stolen away, as here comes DeWolf for Pioneer. DeWolf quickly outlets to Stewart. Stewart into the paint, puts it up with her left hand and in. Pioneer now up 10-2 as Hubler gets it over to French. French back to Hubler. Hubler brings it up for the Rail Splitters. Now that's sent ahead to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark trying to make her way into the paint between two Pioneer players, as both Stewart and DeWolf had some coverage there that will lead to a turnover. And that'll be Pioneer ball. 4:08 left to go here in this, the first quarter. 10 points for Pioneer, 2 for Lincoln. As Dombrowski inbounds it to DeWolf. DeWolf brings it up the far sideline over center court. DeWolf onto the far wing. Gets it over to Bogan. Bogan top of the key. That moved over to Stewart on the near wing. Stewart is working against Brianna Clark. Stewart top of the key. Bounce pass. And that pulled away by French. Here comes Lincoln the other direction. French on the far sideline working against Dombrowski. French onto the near wing, as that's Maxson for three. That off the front of the rim, bouncing for it. Teresa Clark gets the rebound. French moves it over again to Maxson. Maxson on the near baseline kicks it back to Brianna Clark on the near wing. Brianna Clark has Covington watching her. That's stolen away by DeWolf, getting right in the paint. There's a whistle. And there is a penalty. That is going to be the second penalty on Celine. 1 on Pioneer, 2 on Celine. 3:26 left to go here in the first. Pioneer 10, Rail Splitters 2. I think I said Celine. It's a Lincoln 2 fouls, Pioneer 1. As DeWolf has it on the far corner for Pioneer. Moves over to Dombrowski. Dombrowski over to Stewart. Stewart on the near wing. Gets it over to Bogan. Bogan in the near corner. Coming down the baseline. Bogan kicks it over to Stewart in the far corner. That moved over. Here comes DeWolf for a long two-pointer. That off the rim. Bounces out. Covington trying to get the rebound. That pulled away by Stewart. Here comes Lincoln the other direction, as Teresa Clark hands it off to Stewart. Stewart coming down the far sideline on the far wing. Dombrowski providing cover for her. Stewart now on the near wing, still trying to work against Dombrowski. Gets over to Brianna Clark, top of the key. Bounce pass, that to Maxim. Maxim moves it over to Teresa Clark, who goes down the side of the paint, off the glass. That one just to the right. Now here comes DeWolf for Pioneer, pushing the tempo. DeWolf off the glass, and rebound by Covington, puts it up. Rebound again by Covington. That one a little strong, as they were knocking it off the glass, but just couldn't get it into the cylinder. 2:26 left to go. DeWolf and Stewart come off for a breather. Harrison for Pioneer. Taking a look. Hicks is going to inbound. Still Pioneer ball. As Hicks looking for a place to go. Gets it to Covington. Covington puts it right up. A foul called. A little strong. That is in the act of shooting. So Covington goes to the line. She'll be shooting 2. 2:24 left to go here in the first. Covington with a chance to make it a 10-point lead. She sinks the first. Beautiful swish by Covington. She has one more coming. You have Harris, Hicks, Covington, Dombrowski, and Bogan in for Pioneer. Covington second. That's a swish as well. Pioneer up 12-2 as French inbounds. That over to Stephanie Clark. Gets it back to French. As Dombrowski called for the foul. That will go right back to the Rail Splitters. They'll inbound baseline left. Covington watching the inbound pass by Stephanie Clark. That moved over to Teresa Clark. Pioneer providing full court pressure as Harrison Bogan doubling up Brianna Clark. She tries to find a place for it, and travel call. So big time pressure by Pioneer. Hicks will inbound on the near sideline. 2 minutes, 14 seconds left to go here in the first. Hicks gets it to Covington underneath the basket, puts it up, puts it in. That makes it Pioneer 14. And the Rail Splitters 2. 2 minutes and 4 seconds left to go here in the first quarter. As it's brought up, here comes Maxson for the Rail Splitters, moves it over on the far side to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark up off the glass, spinning shot and in. She has all the points at this point for Lincoln. Now comes Harris. Harris for Pioneer, bouncing it, trying to get it over to Covington. That's stolen away by French for Lincoln. French brings it up. Trying to get over center court. Harris providing excellent pressure. That underneath to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark in the paint. Off the glass. That rolls around and down. That means Pioneer has 14 points. Lincoln has 6. As Lincoln providing full court pressure. As Hicks able to get it out ahead to Harris. Harris moves it over to Covington. That'll be a foul on Teresa Clark. As she got Covington in the act of shooting. Excellent selfless play by Harris to come down and see Covington on the other side. Try and bounce that over. Pioneer with an 8-point lead. That inbounded to Bogan. Bogan, top of the key for Pioneer. Bogan dribbles to her right, now to her left. Calling out signals. Bogan on the near wing, gets it to Hicks. Hicks over to Dombrowski. Dombrowski up into the paint. Just a little strong, would not fall. And bounces out of bounds. That'll go over to Lincoln. 1 minute, 3 seconds left to go here in the first quarter. Pioneer 12, Lincoln 6. 2 fouls for Pioneer, 3 for Lincoln up on the board. As Teresa Clark has it in the near corner, skies it ahead to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark has Harris on top of her. She puts it not quite strong enough. Harris with the rebound. There's a whistle. And that'll go back over to Lincoln. I think someone stepped out of bounds. Stephanie Clark will inbound on the baseline to our right. 53.6 seconds left to go here in the first. 8-point lead by Pioneer. Stephanie Clark looking for a place to inbound. That off of a few feet. Now picked up by Harris. Here comes Pioneer. Harris for Pioneer. Drops it off. That put up and that put in by Dombrowski. Stretches the Pioneer lead to 16-6. Teresa Clark brings it up the near sideline. Teresa Clark has Dombrowski watching her. Now Harris knocks it away from her out of bounds. It's going to stay Lincoln ball. As Harris, the last person to touch it. Stephanie Clark will inbound on the near sideline. Spizak comes on in for Pioneer, as well as Brines. as Brianna Clark has it. Brianna Clark being watched by Dombrowski. Hands off to Stephanie Clark. Stephanie Clark works her way around the arc. Bounce pass inside to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark coming down the side of the paint. Off the glass, that wouldn't fall. Bryan's trying to get it. Now Dombrowski with it. Tied up with Stephanie Clark. That's going to be a jump ball. Possession arrow pointing to Pioneer. Pioneer 16, Lincoln 6, 17.3 seconds left to go. Pioneer with not a lot of time to work. That ahead to Harris. Harris brings it over center court. Harris works her way into the far wing, moves it over to Spizak. Spizak over to Hicks. 8 seconds left to go. Hicks out to Brines. Brines moves it over to Hicks. Hicks for three. That off the front of the rim. Hicks trying to get her own rebound, and that will do it for the first. At the end of one, it is Pioneer 16 and Lincoln 6. Taking a look at my scoring, by no means is it official, but Lauren DeWolf has 4 points. Kayla Covington has 4 points. Alexis Clark with 2, Felicia Stewart with 2, and Teresa Dombrowski with 2, as well as Jacqueline Brines with 2 for Pioneer. All 6 points are by Teresa Clark over on the Lincoln side. Looking at your foul situation through a quarter, again, it is Pioneer with 2 fouls and Lincoln with 3 fouls. Both teams huddled up, getting their game plan set, ready to go for the second quarter. It's Lincoln breaks the huddle. Possession arrow. Lincoln will bring it in. Stephanie Clark to inbound. Spizak watching her. That bounced over to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark being watched by Hicks. Moves it over to her right-hand side. Bounce pass over to French. French on the near wing. French being watched by DeWolf. Now gets it over to Maxon. Maxon, top of the key. Being watched by Brines. Over to Teresa Clark. Bounce pass inside to Stephanie Clark. There is a whistle. That one's going to go on Spizak. That will make it 3 fouls on Pioneer, 3 on Lincoln. Stephanie Clark to inbound on the baseline right. Stephanie Clark looking for a place to go. Skies it up to French. French has it on the near wing. French trying to dribble. Hicks watching her, trying to stay in front. Bounce pass, trying to feed it over to Stephanie Clark. She manages, excellent job not to get a step out of bounds. There's a three-pointer, that off the front of the rim, pulled away by Hicks. Here comes Pioneer. Hicks quickly outlets it to Brines, and just out of her reach. That will go over to Lincoln. Pioneer 16, Lincoln 6 here in the second. 7:26 left to go. As Stephanie Clark brings it ahead for Lincoln. She comes over center court, working against Spizak, and Bryan's trying to steal that away, grabbing at Maxon. Maxon trying to get it quickly over to Stephanie Clark. That taken away by Pioneer. That ahead to Brewer. Brewer gets it over to Hicks. Hicks moves it on the near wing over to Brines. Brines shoots it. That bounced off the rim, one side the other, then pulled down by Teresa Clark. Here comes Lincoln with it. French on the near wing. Spizak watching her. French gets it over into the near corner for Stephanie Clark. Stephanie Clark has DeWolf on her. Stephanie Clark pivots, trying to come down the baseline. Gets it over to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark tries to find her way past 2 Pioneer defenders. Brewer stole it away. Now Brines has it ahead for DeWolf. DeWolf for Pioneer brings it up into the near, in the near corner. Hands it off to Brewer. Brewer on the near wing. That over to Brines in the far corner, trying to come down the baseline, tries to hook it underneath. That hit the bottom of the basket. Quickly ahead, Lincoln. Brianna Clark spins with it, puts it off the glass. Brines tipped it over to Spizak. Brewer ahead. Here comes Hicks with it on the far wing. Hicks drops it back to DeWolf. DeWolf has Maxon watching her. Hands it off to Hicks. That moved over to Brines. Brines just a touch on the near side of the top of the key. Now over to DeWolf on the far wing. DeWolf cuts into the paint, puts it off glass. Oh, rolls around, would not fall. That's going to be a foul, though. And Pioneer 16. Lincoln 6. Harris comes in as well as Covington, replacing Brines and Spizak. Hicks goes out. DeWolf will inbound. Stewart out there. Harris. Spizak and Brewer. That inbounded to Stewart. Stewart takes it down the baseline, puts it up, puts it in. Stewart has her 4th point. Pioneer 18, Lincoln 6 as French brings it ahead for Lincoln over center court. DeWolf watching her. French dumps it underneath to Stephanie Clark at the free throw line. Stephanie Clark puts it up. High arcing shot, just left a little short though, off the front of the rim. Here comes Pioneer. DeWolf for Pioneer. Bounce pass over to Harris on the near wing. Harris puts it up. That off the rim. Teresa Clark with the rebound. Bounced over to French. French for Lincoln coming down the near sideline over center. French dribbles to her right, trying to work her way around Harris. Steps back. Dribbles with one hand then the other. Comes top of the key over to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark working against Spizak. Bounced underneath, trying to get to French. That a little high or a little too strong. Here comes Pioneer. DeWolf ahead, but there is a whistle and a timeout called by Pioneer. Well, we'll take it with them. We'll play a little push on. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting. 4 minutes, 56 seconds left to go here before halftime. It is Pioneer 18 and Lincoln, the Rail Splitters, 6. Pioneer ball as they'll inbound on the near sideline, as Hicks will inbound just to the left of our broadcast position. Alexis Clark, Stewart, Brines, Hicks, and DeWolf in for Pioneer. Roberts watching DeWolf for Lincoln as DeWolf brings it up for Pioneer. That over to Alexis Clark. Alexis Clark gets it over to Hicks. Hicks on the near wing. Hicks works her way around the arc into the paint. Hicks trying to put it up. Contact made. It's going to stay Pioneer ball. 4 minutes, 42 seconds left to go. 3 fouls for Pioneer, 4 for Lincoln. DeWolf will inbound right underneath her own basket on the left-hand side, as Roberts trying to make it difficult for her. Alexis Clark has it in the paint. Skies it for Brines. Saved by DeWolf. DeWolf comes streaking. Now kicks it back into the corner for Brines. Brines for 3. And she hit it. That gives Brines 5 points. 4 minutes, 25 seconds left to go. Pioneer 21, Lincoln 6. As Teresa Clark has it for Lincoln. Top of the key as she's working against Hicks. Moves it over to Stephanie Clark. Stephanie Clark working her way around the rim. Alexis Clark in front of her. Stephanie Clark on the near wing. That over to Roberts. Roberts, top of the key, dribbles to her right. Roberts over to Teresa Clark. Over to Brianna Clark on the far wing. Brines watching Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark, bounce pass over to Roberts. Roberts steps back 5 feet from the arc. That underneath, trying to get it over to Brianna Clark on the near baseline. Brianna Clark trying to sky it over to French. That tipped away by DeWolf. That will remain Lincoln ball. Pioneer 21, Lincoln 6. 15-point lead for Pioneer. Stephanie Clark to inbound underneath her own basket. Covington comes in, replacing Stewart. Pioneer keeping their bench rolling. Roberts in for Lincoln, as well as Teresa Clark, Brianna Clark, Stephanie Clark, and French. Stephanie Clark to inbound. Bounce pass, that over, put up, over to Brianna Clark in the near corner. Brianna Clark double team. That's stolen away by Alexis Clark. Feeds it ahead. Here comes Hicks for Pioneer. Hicks gets it over to Brines. Brines puts it up, off glass and in. That's her 7th point. 3:25 left to go here in the first. Roberts brings it up for Lincoln. Pioneer 23. Lincoln 6. Teresa Clark has it. Now hands it off to Stephanie Clark, calling out signals. Stephanie Clark over to Roberts on the near wing. Roberts with Brines watching her. Now Hicks out on Stephanie Clark, right on the blockades. Stewart on the far wing, trying to get it underneath to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark puts it off glass, rolls down and in. It's Teresa Clark's 8th point, and that's Lincoln's 8th point. Quickly ahead into the near corner is Hicks. Hicks puts it up for Pioneer. That off the rim, but Hicks gets her own rebound, bounces it over to Brines. Brines over to DeWolf. DeWolf gets it underneath to Alexis Clark. She goes off glass and in. So Alexis Clark's 4th point. 2:37 left to go here in the first. Pioneer 25, Lincoln 8. Roberts brings it up the far sideline, moves it over to French for Lincoln. French dribbles on the near wing, now into the near corner. There's Teresa Clark with the long 2-pointer. That bounced from the rim to glass and would not fall for her. DeWolf coming up the other direction for Pioneer. DeWolf moves it over to Brines. Brines underneath to Alexis Clark. That up to Covington, who puts it in. Covington gets her 6th point. Pioneer 27, Lincoln 8. Roberts brings it ahead. Roberts. Bounce pass over to Brianna Clark. Back to Teresa Clark just outside of the top of the key. Stephanie Clark has it on the near wing, being watched by Hicks. Stephanie Clark skies it up. That's stolen away. Brines had it. French pulled it away. That off the bottom of the basket. DeWolf gets it for Pioneer. DeWolf heads up over to Hicks. Hicks moves it over to Alexis Clark into the paint. She's double teamed. Puts it up. That off of the rim. Out of bounds. That is going to stay Pioneer ball. 1 minute 31 seconds left to go. 3 fouls for Pioneer, 4 for Lincoln. In comes Bogan and Dombrowski. Brines and Clark go out for Pioneer. Teresa Clark takes a seat for Lincoln. Bounce pass into Covington. Covington on the baseline, gets it to Bogan in the far corner. Bogan back to Covington. Covington puts it off glass, rolls around the rim and down. Covington's 8th point. That's Pioneer 29 and Lincoln 8. Here comes Brianna Clark for Lincoln. She's in the near corner. Bounce pass over to Stephanie Clark. Popped out of her hands, but got it back right inside to Brianna Clark in the paint. There's a whistle as Bogan will get called for the foul. 1 minute, 10 seconds left to go before halftime. Brianna Clark shooting 2 for Lincoln. At this point in time, Teresa Clark, the only scorer for the Rail Splitters. Brianna Clark trying to stop that trend and get a pair here. First one is a swish. One more shot coming as she gets 2 in the process of shooting. Was the foul. That's put up and off the back of the rim. So that makes it Pioneer 29, Lincoln 9. That's skied ahead to Hicks over to Dombrowski for Pioneer. DeWolf, gets it back to Wolf. Works her way around the arc. DeWolf gets it over to Bogan. Bogan moves it over to Hicks. Hicks over to Dombrowski. Dombrowski gets it over to Hicks. Hicks working her way around the arc. That handed off to Covington on the near wing. Covington moves it to Hicks. Hicks tries to work her way top of the key over to Bogan. Bogan moves it over to DeWolf on the near wing. 39 seconds left to go before halftime as Brianna Clark watches DeWolf. DeWolf steps back right around even with the blockades. Now comes to her left-hand side as DeWolf looking for a little space. Gets a screen from Covington. French switches off on DeWolf. Moves it over to Bogan on the far wing. Bogan back to DeWolf. 17 seconds left to go before halftime. Pioneer holding on for the last shot of the half. DeWolf comes towards the paint, now steps back on the near wing, inside to Covington. Covington kicks it back to Hicks. Hicks for 3. Oh, off the front of the rim, the back of the rim. The rebound to Wolf, who puts it in as time expires. That makes it at the half. Pioneer 31 and the Rail Splitters 9. as a little extra wonderful crowd noise provided by the JV basketball team. We appreciate them coming in and showing their support for the varsity team, and we'll see them in action tomorrow, and we're excited to see that. So we will definitely be here and broadcast that game tomorrow. As taking a look at your points so far for Pioneer, Covington has 8 points. Brines has 7 points. DeWolf has 6 points. Alexis Clark has 2 points. Felicia Stewart has 2 points. And Teresa Dombrowski has 2 points. On the rail splitter side, it is 8 points for Teresa Clark and 1 point for Brianna Clark. And that's where we stand. So we are 4 minutes and 16 seconds of halftime left. We'll play a few more messages from the MHSAA, and we will be right back at it. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting.
You're hearing it. The message is getting through to parents. Multi-sport athletes get injured less. Multi-sport athletes become better in their primary sport in the long run. And even though it's not why we play our games, multi-sport athletes are now getting recruited more than specialized athletes. Multi-sport participation is cross-training for life. Learn more at the MHSAA website. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
You have to wonder sometimes how folks in the stands, so far removed from the action and who have probably never had any training, actually think they can see the play and apply the rules better than the officials assigned to a game. If you're that good, please register immediately at MHSAA.com. We need more officials on the playing surface and fewer in the stands. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
Think of a high school game as a 4-lane highway. Coaches, players, officials, and spectators, each with their own lane. Sportsmanship depends on everyone not crossing over the line. Fans keep it between the lines when they cheer positively for their team. So don't cause an accident. Stay in your lane and let the coaches, players, and officials do their jobs. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Power Ratings will be used this year in soccer, basketball, and boys lacrosse to seed the district tournament in those sports, and you can follow along. Visit your school's page on the MHSAA website to see how your team is faring, and you can look at statewide lists as well. And if you see your team is missing a score, submit it. Learn more about the Michigan Power Rankings at MHSAA.com. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. Have we gotten to the point where at some high school game that an official has finally had enough from coaches, players, and adults, pulls off the whistle, and offers it to you? Let's hope not. There's no way you could do a better job. It's on everyone to promote good sportsmanship. So before you blurt something out about that next close call, consider this. Without the officials, nobody wins. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
Maybe you've seen the videos of the specialized sports parent support group, or the kid holding a press conference to announce his retirement from sports. The problem is, they'd be really funny if there wasn't a lot of truth there. Multi-sport participation provides a healthier experience and lifestyle for kids and families. Multi-sport participation is cross-training for life. Learn more at the MHSAA website. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
We have a minute left in halftime before we get back going. Again, I did search, trying to do a scoreboard report. I did search on the MHSAA site. I just literally only put in girls basketball and could not find any scores. So if anyone knows a good location where I can pull some of those from, please let me know. I thought in the past the MHSAA had a good spot of that, but apparently I'm not able to find it at this point in time. So if anyone knows, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just get going here. Let's play a little push on as Pioneer back out just to the right. The clock counting down. We're getting ready to go. Lincoln should be out of the locker room soon. as we're getting ready to go. 8 minutes up on the clock, getting ready to start the second half. As it's going to be Pioneer ball. Pioneer 39, Lincoln 9. 22-point lead for Pioneer. Hicks to inbound right in front of us. Hicks to Wolf, Stewart, Brines in there for Pioneer, as well as Alexis Clark. DeWolf has it for Pioneer on the near wing. Hands it off to Hicks. Hicks, top of the key. Moves it over to Brines on the far wing. Over to Stewart. Stewart works her way around the arc. Gets it back to DeWolf. Now on the near wing over to Brines. Brines being watched by Roberts. Gets it back to Hicks. Trying to go underneath to Alexis Clark. Back over to DeWolf. She saves it from going on the wrong side of half court. Comes down the paint. Puts it up. Rolls around the rim and down. And DeWolf has her eighth point for the game. It's Pioneer 33, Lincoln 9, as Roberts brings it ahead for Lincoln. That over to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark over to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark on the near wing being watched by Brines. Now Roberts on the far wing being watched by DeWolf. She steps back, gets it over to Stephanie Clark. Now on the near wing over to Brianna Clark. Brines has her. Back kicked over to Maxim. Maxim over to Roberts on the near wing. Roberts gets it to Brianna Clark, just offside the top of the key. Straight up, now Roberts has it. Roberts over to Stephanie Clark. Stephanie Clark on the far wing to Brianna Clark underneath the Roberts. Roberts trying to make her way, backs up, trying to make her way into the paint. Bounced off of DeWolf. .646 left to go. Pioneer to inbound. Over to DeWolf. DeWolf bringing up for Pioneer. Pioneer 33, Lincoln 9. DeWolf on the near wing. Steps back, kicks it over to Hicks at the top of the key. Over to Brines on the far wing. Roberts watching Brines. Over to Stewart in the far corner. Stewart dribbles to her left, gets it to Hicks, top of the key, then back to Stewart. Stewart dribbles to her left, one step, skies it over to Hicks. Hicks makes her way to the free throw line, underneath to Alexis Clark, off the glass and in. That is Alexis Clark's 6th point. As Roberts brings it ahead for Lincoln. Pioneer 35, Lincoln 9. Stephanie Clark with it for Lincoln as she comes down the far side along the baseline, gets it back to Roberts on the far wing. Over to Maxim now, straight off from the top of the key. Over to Stephanie Clark along the far sideline. She backs up, skies it over, trying to get it to Roberts, and that bounces into the stands. And without anyone to help, the official has to go and grab it, but did an excellent job. As Hicks to inbound, gets it over to DeWolf. DeWolf for Pioneer, over center. DeWolf gets it on the far sideline to Stewart. Stewart gets it to Brines in the far corner. Brines works her way around the arc, over to Hicks, top of the key. Hicks into the paint, dumps it back. That put off for Alexis Clark, who puts it in. She now has 8 points, Pioneer 37, and Lincoln 9. 5 minutes, 27 seconds left to go here in the third. Roberts for Lincoln, brings it down the far sideline into the far corner, hands it off over to Maxim. Maxim over to Teresa Clark. Teresa Clark back over to Roberts along the far sideline. Roberts being watched by DeWolf, steps back, bounce pass, as that was Stewart trying to grab it. Contact made. Foul is going to be called on Stewart. That's the first foul of the half. Pioneer 1, Lincoln none on the fouls. Teresa Clark to inbound. Alexis Clark watching her. 5 minutes, 9 seconds left to go. As that's stolen away by Alexis Clark. Here comes DeWolf for Pioneer as she comes into the paint and puts it up high off the glass. Would not fall. Picking it up Hicks. Hicks over to DeWolf. DeWolf free throw line, puts it up, puts it in. That is the 10th point for DeWolf. 39 for Pioneer, 9 for Lincoln. 4:44 left to go here in the third. Bounce pass, that over to Teresa Clark on the far wing. Underneath to Stephanie Clark. Stephanie Clark trying to put it up. Brianna Clark gets that off the glass, off the rim. Trying to pull that away, tied up underneath between Brines and Maxim. as that's going to be inbounded by Stephanie Clark underneath. Stephanie Clark gets it over to Brianna Clark. That off the glass would not fall. Picked up by Brines. Brines moves it over to DeWolf. DeWolf for Pioneer. Brings it over center court. Gets it to Stewart. Stewart underneath the Brines on the near wing. That back. There comes Hicks for three. Hicks hits it. Excellent job as she scores her first points. 3 points for Hicks. That makes it Pioneer 42 and Lincoln 9. 4 minutes to go here in the third. Stephanie Clark brings it ahead for Lincoln. Now Maxim has it. Maxim tries to get it over to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark dribbles down the far sideline. Bryan's trying to stick with her. Brianna Clark thought about it, trying to get it over to Teresa Clark. That's stolen away by Alexis Clark underneath to DeWolf. DeWolf is bumped, put it in, count it, and one. Count the basket. You'll have one shot coming. That makes it 44 points for Pioneer. 9 for Lincoln. 3:39 left to go. As DeWolf has the ability to make it a nice 45 points. French comes in for Stephanie Clark. For Lincoln. Covington set to check in for Pioneer. DeWolf bends at the knees, puts it up, puts it in. That makes 13 points for DeWolf. Pioneer 45, Lincoln 9. 36-point lead for Pioneer. As French brings it up for Lincoln, coming down the near sideline. Dombrowski watches her. French steps back, even with the AAs. Now gets it over to Maxim. Maxim dribbles onto the far wing. That tipped away right into the bench over to Coach Bentley for Lincoln. That'll be Lincoln ball. They'll inbound as Brianna Clark to inbound. Covington in front of her, trying to make it difficult for her to get the ball in. Underneath, trying to get it over to 40. I don't have her on my roster. Number 40 for Lincoln, but that off of a little hot on the pass. Not able to hang on to that, and that goes to Pioneer. Pioneer 45, Lincoln 9. 3 minutes, 17 seconds left to go in the third. Hicks brings it up court for Pioneer over the blockades. Hicks has French watching her. That over to Harris. Harris takes the three-pointer. That's just a little short. Picked up by Brianna Clark, and she brings it up for Lincoln. Brianna Clark comes over center. Covington watching her. Brianna Clark, that off of Covington's toes. Comes back as they battle for it, back on the ground. Covington gets it ahead to Dombrowski. Dombrowski off the glass. Rolls off the front of the rim, out of bounds. That will be Lincoln ball. 45 points for Pioneer, 9 for Lincoln. 2:46 left to go here in the third. As that inbounded by Hubler. Bringing it up is French. French for Lincoln comes over center. Dombrowski watching her. Gets a screen from Hubler. French in the far corner. Moves it over to Brianna Clark, top of the key. She pivots with it back to French on the far wing. Whistle. And there is a foul called. Elbow. That will be 2 fouls for Pioneer, 2 fouls for the Rail Splitters. Harris to inbound for Pioneer, baseline left. Here comes DeWolf for Pioneer. 45 points for Pioneer, 9 for Lincoln. Bogan puts up a 3 and hits it. Nothing but net for Bogan. She gets her first points of the day with the triple. That makes it Pioneer 48 and Lincoln 9. As Hubler brings it up court for Lincoln. That's stolen away by DeWolf. DeWolf coming down the far sideline. DeWolf skies it for Bogan underneath. Bogan tries to put it up. Contact made in the process of a shot. That will be Lincoln's third foul. Bogan will go to the line shooting 2. Bogan with the opportunity to make it an even 50 for Pioneer. And stretch that lead to 41 points. Bogan puts it up, puts it in. She now has 4 on the day, looking to make it 5 so far. One more shot coming for Bogan. She dribbles, bends at the knees, eyes the rim, puts it up, rattles off the front. The back would not fall. Coming up the other way, French for Lincoln. French gets to the top of the key, now backs off. Pioneer 49 and Lincoln 9. French on the far wing gets it over to Brianna Clark. Brianna Clark trying to dump it in, that tipped away. Now coming down the baseline, Brianna Clark gets it back. That put up off the rim, collected by DeWolf. DeWolf trying to make her way, coming down, avoiding a few of the Lincoln players. DeWolf for Pioneer comes up, top of the key, moves over to Bogan. Bogan underneath for Covington. Covington, that bounced off the rim about 3 times, wouldn't fall. There comes Dombrowski with it. Covington gets the rebound. Contact made. That'll be a foul, as that one will go on French. That'll be the 3rd foul for Lincoln. Pioneer to inbound underneath their own basket, baseline right. As DeWolf goes to inbound for Pioneer. French will watch the inbound. DeWolf skies it into the paint. Harris gets over to Dombrowski. Back to Harris, top of the key. Harris dribbles to her right. Over to Dombrowski inside on the near corner. Over to Covington. Covington back to Bogan. Bogan. That over on the far side to Harris. Harris works her way around the arc. There is a foul, that on Hubler, of Lincoln. Now Spizak comes in, replacing DeWolf, gives her a breather. Harris is going to inbound right in front of Coach. Right in front of Coach Hicks. Bogan moves it into the far corner for Harris. Harris gets over to Dombrowski. Dombrowski, top of the key, over on the near wing. That to Bogan. Bogan works her way around the arc, bounces it over to Harris, then gets it back. Bogan, top of the key. Bogan has Maxim watching out for her. That tipped away by French. Now Bogan got it back underneath as that off of the rim, and that'll be the end of the 3rd. As Dombrowski trying to put it up, that off of off the rim, and that will do it for the 3rd. Pioneer 49 and Lincoln 9. We will play a little push on and get you ready for the all-important 4th quarter. As we are back for the 4th, it is 8 minutes up on the clock. French to inbound right in front of us for Lincoln. She brings that in. Now Stephanie Clark has it over center. Stephanie Clark on the near wing. Dribbles. Dombrowski watching her. That put up by French off of the rim and bounces over to the right. Whistle blown. So I was trying to find, I did a quick look, and that'll be shots coming for French. I was trying to look up on the Lincoln Athletics website to figure out who number 40 is, and I didn't see a JV team, just an 8th grade team. That goes in for French, her first points of the game. That makes it an even 10 for Lincoln. So please forgive me. I will, if I figure it out, I'll let you know. Next shot coming for French. She puts it up. Puts it in. 2 points for French. Second leading scorer for Lincoln. That inbounded to Bogan. Bogan brings it ahead for Pioneers. We approach the 7-minute mark. Left to go. Bogan puts it over to Harris on the near wing. Harris gets it over to Brewer in the near corner. Brewer skies it all the way across for Bogan. Bogan has Hubler watching her. Bogan kicks it off to Brewer in the far corner. Brewer for 3. That bounces off the rim, the glass, and out. Here comes Lincoln with it as French brings it ahead down the far sideline. Pioneer 49, Lincoln 11. As Maxim has it coming into the paint. Lifts it up, and that bounces, spins, and down. That'll be Maxim's first points. Maxon has 2 now. Bogan into the paint. Bogan off the high glass. That would not fall. Collected by Hubler as Hubler brings it up for Lincoln the other direction. Hubler over center onto the far wing. Hubler into the paint, puts it up. That bounces just to the left, gets her own rebound. That off the back of the rim would not fall. Out of bounds, that'll go to Pioneer. 6 minutes, 6 seconds left to go. Pioneer 49, Lincoln 13. Spizak will inbound underneath, baseline left. As 5 minutes, 50 seconds left to go in the fourth. Spizak inbounds it to DeWolf. DeWolf brings it ahead for Pioneer. 1 foul on Pioneer, 5 on Lincoln. DeWolf has it on the near corner, being watched by French. Gets it over to Hicks, whistle. And timeout called. Timeout Pioneer. Well, we'll take it with them. We'll play a little message from the MHSAA. You're listening to Pioneer Women's Varsity Basketball, brought to you by Arbor Broadcasting.
Have we gotten to the point where at some high school game that an official has finally had enough from coaches, players, and adults, pulls off the whistle, and offers it to you? Let's hope not. There's no way you could do a better job. It's on everyone to promote good sportsmanship. So before you blurt something out about that next close call, consider this. Without the officials, nobody wins. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
You do not have to agree with every call, but you cannot have the game without the officials. We are very, very grateful that they are there, and we appreciate them being here. And if you have the inkling, contact the MHSAA because we could always use more officials. 5 minutes, 30 seconds up on the board. 49 points for Pioneer, 13 for the Rail Splitters. 3 fouls for Pioneer, 5 for the Rail Splitters up on the big board. DeWolf has it on the near wing. DeWolf gets it over to Harris on the far wing. Harris trying to get it right to Covington at the free throw line. Back to Hicks. Hicks moves it over to DeWolf. DeWolf working against Brianna Clark, getting it to Covington. Covington puts it up, soft off the glass, puts it in. And that is going to be Covington's 10th point. As it's brought ahead by French for Lincoln. That moved over. Here comes Brianna Clark. As tied up, timeout called as Stewart had gone down to the court. She gathered the ball in and quickly timeout called by the Rail Splitter coaching bench. 4 minutes, 54 seconds left to go. Let's play a little push on. Again, we will be back tomorrow as we'll have the JV game here at 5:30 and then the varsity game at 7 o'clock for the Pioneer women's varsity and JV basketball. The men's team is going to be at Bedford, so the ladies' teams are going to host Bedford. The men's teams are going to be at Bedford. We will also have the Pioneer Huron hockey game for you tomorrow. That got pushed back. I cannot remember if it's 6 or 6:30 off the top of my head. It was originally 3:30 but got pushed back. Our students will broadcast that game with James Wiseman as our cameraman. And then I will be here for the ladies basketball game. So unfortunately we can't cover the men's game just out of a lack of we just have 2 teams right now broadcasting, but it is at Bedford, so they are letting two attendees per athlete in. That inbound went right off of Covington, back out of bounds. That'll stay with Lincoln. Hubler to inbound right in front of her bench. Bounce pass over. That's stolen away by Covington. Covington ahead to Hicks. Hicks in the paint, floats it up, rims around and in. That'll be Hicks' 5th point for Pioneer. Pioneer 53 and Lincoln 13. French brings it ahead for Lincoln. DeWolf watching her. Lincoln on the far sideline. No matter the score, this Lincoln team continues to battle, though. Good to see as Maxim has it. Maxim comes into the paint, puts it off the glass, rolls around. Oh, hard luck roll. Thought it was going to roll in. It rolled out. Here comes Pioneer the other way. DeWolf over center. DeWolf top of the key. DeWolf into the paint. DeWolf kicks it over to Harris. Harris on the far wing, over on the near wing to Hicks. Hicks back to Harris, moves over to DeWolf on the far wing. as DeWolf holding it, being watched by Maxson. That over to Harris in the far corner, being watched by Hubler. Spizak has it. Now DeWolf getting it underneath the Covington. Covington off the glass, bounced off the rim. Rebound gathered in by Hubler for Lincoln. Hubler comes down the far sideline, gets it ahead for Stewart. Stewart moves it over, 55. That it pulled away by DeWolf. DeWolf comes over center for Pioneer. DeWolf steps right to the free throw line, shoots it just a little hard off the back and the front of the rim. Here comes Harris. Harris rolls it around and down. That'll be Harris's first points of the game. 55 for Pioneer, 13 for the Rail Splitters. French for the Rail Splitters brings it up on the far wing. DeWolf watching her. There is a screen from Hubler that puts French up, and French hits the three-pointer. That'll give her 5 points for the game. Pioneer 55, Lincoln 16. DeWolf for Pioneer has it on the near wing. Be watched by French. That underneath to Covington. Gets it back to Hicks. Hicks coming down the baseline over to Covington. Covington puts it up and in. Covington with 15 points for the game. French, top of the key for Lincoln. DeWolf watching her, that intercepted by Covington, but loose ball. Maxim has it. Maxim over to Brianna Clark, trying to get underneath the Maxim. Maximum puts it up, and just a little off mark. Here comes Hicks. Hicks over center for Pioneer. On to the near wing. Skies it over to DeWolf on the far wing. DeWolf puts up for three, rattles in and down. That'll be 18 points for DeWolf. Again, this is completely unofficial. Did I put that last one where it was? I think that should have gone over here. I think Covington, has 12, and that should be 16 for DeWolf. That's what I get for trying to write it down, do play-by-play. That picked up by Hubler, top of the key. Hubler trying to get it inside to Stephanie Clark, stolen away by Harris. Harris comes down the near wing over center. Harris for Pioneer, top of the key, gets it over to Brewer. Brewer on the near wing, over to Spizak at the free throw line. Back to Brugger, top of the key, or Bogan at the top of the key. Bogan moves to her left. Bogan calling out signals, gets folks where they want. Brewer trying to get it underneath to Spizak. That just off the mark, out of bounds. Pioneer with 60 points. Lincoln with 16. 1 minute, 23 seconds and counting. Rolling clock. Hubler inbounds it. Here comes Roberts. Roberts brings it up for Lincoln. Roberts kicks it in along the far wing. That brought down by Stephanie Clark. Intercepted by Bogan. Bogan coming up for Pioneer. Bogan avoids some pressure. Bogan over center. Stephanie Clark watching her. Bogan calling out signals, getting folks where she wants them. She's on the far wing. Over to Harris. Harris gets it back to Brewer. Brewer onto the near wing. That for Dombrowski. Now Bogan has it. Over to Brewer. Brewer over to Harris. Harris thought about the three-pointer. Now goes into the paint. Puts it up. That off of the back of the rim. Rebound. Here comes Lincoln. 42 seconds left to go. Stephanie Clark pushes it for Lincoln. She skies it. That off the front of the rim. But she gets her own rebound. She steps back on the near wing. Calls out signals. 30 seconds left to go. That pass just off the mark, trying to hit Hubler along the baseline. It's Pioneer 60, Lincoln 16. One foul for Pioneer in this half, 5 for Lincoln. That ball went all the way out into the hallway. It's no fun when the ball tries to run away. There you go. Spizak to inbound, 9 seconds left to go. Here comes Bogan. Bogan brings it ahead over center. Bogan over to Harris. Harris on the far wing. Pioneer will dribble it out, as that is the end of the game. Pioneer moves to 3-1. That's going to tie them with Bedford, with a huge important game happening with Bedford tomorrow. That will be here 5:30 for the JV game. We'll have that for you, and then 7 o'clock for the varsity game. As I said, we'll also have our second crew doing the Pioneer men's varsity hockey versus Huron game. And then if you wanted to watch the men's basketball games, you'd have to go to Bedford to watch those. We won't be able to broadcast them, but again, two attendees per athlete is my understanding. That brings them down to 1-4 for Lincoln. We are very grateful for the Rail Splitters coming in. We hope they have a fantastic rest of the season. Pioneer gets the win is going to try and string another one together. So back on the winning ways. They'll have a huge test versus the Kicking Mules tomorrow. For my cameraman extraordinaire, James Wiseman, my name is Mark Wiseman. Thank you very much, and we hope you have a fantastic rest of the evening.